Hello. If you've been gay and on TikTok, I am certain you have seen this video.
I was harassed and was kicked out of a gay bar, which should have been a safe space, but wasn't. Not only was I kicked out, but my wife was kicked out along with me.
This video is by a creator on TikTok called Lesbian Snow White, and the creator, Snow, is talking about how them and their partner were kicked out of a gay bar when they corrected a bartender on misgendering them.
Basically, I was just getting a drink at the bar and they called both Azul and I ladies. After they were done making the drink, I went up and I was like, some people don't refer to themselves as ladies, but it's okay that you didn't know. And in a gay bar, so I should feel safe. So bad turned it around. They got so mad at me and they took the drink away from my wife and I. He hit the bar, because he was like, are you serious? You're doing the same thing to me. How? And then they kicked us out. I didn't think that was gonna happen. How am I supposed to feel? This was the first time that I've told somebody I felt brave enough to tell somebody my identity.
Snow has received a lot of unwarranted hate for this, and it fueled some kind of internal rage in me. The amount of cis people that were stitching this and giving their mid takes about how non-binary people should roll over and take it when misgendered, and were also going out of their way to accuse Snow of lying about this experience, even though there were witnesses such as their literal wife, who was also discriminated against. This bartender yelled at these two people and also got physically violent with his environment. He was hitting the bar. I'm sorry, anyone would be sobbing their eyes out and be scared of that, even without the transphobia sprinkled in. And the amount of people who were just claiming, to be a part of the LGBT community, but being completely unsympathetic towards this blatant display of transphobia, and in fact blaming the victim of the transphobia, it pissed me off. And so I've decided to stop caring completely. This situation has reminded me how much the gay community likes to appeal to straight people rather than love and protect each other. We all love to cannibalize each other and try to look like the good ones and the reasonable ones, and usually that means sacrificing the weakest among us, whether that be people of color or trans people or otherwise. We fight each other for no reason, we get no reward from it, no one wins, we all just end up mad at each other, and the straight people get an advantage because we've now all started to turn on each other. So I'm here to rant. Welcome! I'm going to be ranking every queer discourse that I see circulate yearly. I'll be giving them up to 5 stars based on how I feel the discourse entertains me. There is a man named Pierre-Joseph Proudhon. He was a Frenchman who is widely considered by many people to be the father of anarchism. And whenever I see gay people fighting each other for no reason, I think of this popular quote by him. It sounds significantly better in French, but I'm not going to say it in French because I don't want French people to make fun of me for pronouncing something wrong. But an indirect translation basically is, I endeavor to create a world where I am hung for being a conservative. I want this world to be so full of queer liberation, socialist policies, and progressive movements that somehow my super left takes are suddenly viewed as conservative. I want us to move forward in an act of radical progression so that we all, as a human society, live cleaner, healthier, safer lives, not just with equality, but equity, true liberation. And when I see fighting like this, it just pisses me off because it seems like a lot of other gay people would rather just throw people under the bus. I got mine, so I don't care if you got yours, and then move forward, and it's just embarrassing. I've ranted enough. Let's just get right in the mix. First things first, an absolute classic. Let's start with neo-pronouns. This has been a huge topic of debate on TikTok this week because the creator I mentioned, who was the victim of a hate crime, Lesbian Snow White, they educate on their TikTok page about how to use neo-pronouns and what neo-pronouns are. Now, would I ever use neo-pronouns for myself? No. Was I someone for a very long time who had internalized transphobia and also shit on neo-pronouns? Yes, I'll be the first to admit that. But I've kind of woken up in the past 3 years. Every single day, the legislation of the United States and a multitude of other countries go out of their way to criminalize the very act of being trans. Right now, in a lot of Florida schools, you have to get a permission slip from your teachers to even be called a nickname, even if you're cis, because of the risk of your child being a dirty trans person. That is an actual issue, right? Like, the government legislating what we can literally legally call ourselves and the pronouns and names we can legally go by, like, that's an actual issue, right? So I don't care what people on the internet want to be called. Your pronouns are star self, cool. Have fun. I'll fight tooth and nail for your legal right to have whatever star self pronouns you want. Because I promise you, this small minority of trans people that use neopronouns are not the enemy. It's the cis people telling us what we can and cannot call ourselves under legal penalty. That being said, it's always really funny to watch, people show their asses with this one. This one really weeds out the transphobes every time. So I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 5 stars. 4 out of 5 star self, one might say. Next up, he, him, lesbians. Similarly to neopronouns, I had a lot of internalized transphobia that I was projecting onto other people by not understanding he, him, lesbians. And in the same breath, she, her gays. I find it very interesting that people can very easily call drag queens and very flamboyant gay men she, her, work queen, go hunty, yes girl.
Honey! 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 Ah!
But then the second that a lesbian wants to be called he, him, king, etc., then it's a problem. That kind of reeks of misogyny to me. At the end of the day, what other people call themselves does not negatively affect you. If you are a trans man and you're worried that a he, him lesbian is watering down your identity, I promise you it's not. It's really not. If you want to read about the long, diverse history of lesbian culture and why he, him lesbians might exist in the first place, a great starting point is the book Stone Butch Blues. I am not a lesbian. I don't identify as a lesbian, but I read Stone Butch Blues in order to educate myself to be a better ally to lesbians because I noticed this weird internalized misogyny growing in me, and I wanted to stamp it out. And I recommend you do the same. This discourse has gotten really tired recently, so I'm gonna say it only gets 2 stars out of 5. It's not as fun anymore, because now people are just straight up lesbophobic. You know what I mean? Kink at Pride! This one is so fucking annoying. Girl, I'm gonna nip this in the bud in the quickest, easiest way I can, without causing sex positivity discourse in my comments. To a cis person, all of Pride is kink. All of it. Trans people are not people, they are a porn category. All displays of gay affection are taboo, nasty, evil, awful kink things. All of it. You're holding hands with your boyfriend, congrats. You're a dirty degenerate that's shoving sex in the faces of American family values. You're not safe. You will never be safe. It doesn't matter how wholesome, heartstopper you are. You're not safe from all conservatives considering all of your love dirty, nasty, awful kink. So to make this whole no kink at Pride thing, you're kicking out all gay people from Pride. Kink also has a really wide umbrella of things that fall under it. Are you banning clothing or are you banning whole individuals with their identity? It's a very slippery slope, and it feeds into the conservative narrative that we have right now of this weird growing fascism where all sex is evil and awful and awfully evil, and I'm not gonna feed into that. I'm a trans man. Do you know how many people view my very existence as a kink? Do you know how many disgusting men, cis, straight, gay, whatever, have come up to me and fetishized my identity in the nastiest way possible? It's awful. It's awful. And I can only imagine what trans women go through in the same breath, you know what I mean? The very existence of trans people is a kink to a lot of people. So to ban kink at Pride, you're banning trans people. Sorry, it's true. That's non-negotiable. Also, the obvious long history of the kink communities and the gay community standing hand in hand during all Pride protests and riots, but That's neither here nor there. You know that. You've seen that argument on Twitter all the time. If you're still upset at kink and pride, you choose to ignore that argument, and I can't help you. I'm gonna give this one a 1 out of 5, because it really isn't fun anymore. It's so annoying. It's always discourse started by a minor who should not be having opinions on kink communities anyway. Detransitioners. I've stated my opinion about this one before. I'm gonna make it quick and easy. All people should have respect. All people should have medical resources to help them. All people should be respected with name, pronouns, identities, etc. But detransitioners should not be included in trans statistics because them, by their own admission, are not trans. You wouldn't include straight people in gay statistics. You should not include detransitioners in trans statistics. You would not include white people in statistics involving the Black community. You should not involve detransitioners, aka cis people by their own admission, into situations with trans people. They should not be counted. I also think more people should educate themselves on what detransitioning actually is. Most people only think of the extreme version, which is someone who thought they were trans, began medical transition, realized they were cis, and backtracked, and now they are living their life as a cis person, usually with medical intervention to help them retransition to their gender assigned at birth. That's not what all detransitioning is. A lot of detransitioning is actually someone who thought they were a binary trans person, stopping to live a more androgynous non-binary lifestyle, or someone who has forcibly had to stop transitioning due to outside intervention, whether that be for safety reasons or monetary reasons. Detransitioners are not a fun debate. They never are, because cis people will always use them against us. That being said, like I said, all situations should be met with empathy and love, but they should be met selectively when it comes to actually counting them on trans statistics. 3 out of 5, because I think the nuance is interesting. Next up, femboys. As a self-proclaimed femboy, this one is always fun for me. Has the word femboy been historically used against trans women? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I am someone who has many trans women friends. I am someone who loves and adores trans women, and many trans women actually use the word femboy for themselves. Not all, I really want to clarify. Unless a trans woman has self-identified using that word, you will never, ever use it on her. Okay? But a lot of trans men, trans women, and other gender-bending people will use femboy sometimes as an identifier for a quick shorthand, meaning, you know, a feminine, masculine-leaning person. In my opinion, if the word is used as a self-identifier, as in you are using it to say it for yourself, it is not a problem, it is not a slur, it is not an issue. If you are imposing that identity upon someone who literally does not identify with that, then it becomes a really big problem, especially when it involves the inherent misgendering of trans women. I've seen people on TikTok that are typically young and misguided trying to change the word femboy to roseboy. Roseboy sounds more like a slur to me. It just kind of proves that young kids don't know rosebud stuff. And I don't think they realize that I'd be significantly more offended as a gay trans man being called a rose boy. So femboy it is. 4 out of 5, because usually this conversation is met with a lot more open-mindedness if the person has lived a significant amount of life experience. Very cool. A lot of people actually come out of it appreciating the term femboy, maybe even identifying more with it. Very fun, very cool. Girls saying the F slur, and in the same breath, men saying the D slur. It's fine. It's fine. It's literally fine. Historically, it's been fine. In the future, it'll be fine. It's fine. Homophobes do not know the difference. They don't know the nuances. They're gonna call girls the F slur up and down all the time. All the time. I was a girl who got called the F slur many times. They don't care. They don't care. I've also met gay men who have been called the D slur because genuinely homophobes do not care. They don't care. They don't care. They're not educated. They don't care. They don't care. So I think girls should be able to reclaim the F slur, just how I think everyone in the gay community should be able to reclaim the F slur, because it's been used against all of us, no matter your gender, no matter your identity. It's like their catch-all for a fuck you. I'm gonna say 2 out of 5. This is what straight people want. You know, they want us to turn on each other. Yowie is bad. This is a great one. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I am going to link some really cool academia papers and really interesting essays in the description about why Yowie isn't bad, because all these educated people who literally have like masters in media studies are going to be able to say it better than me, someone who's halfway through college at age 24. That being said, I will say one thing. This debate happens often when it comes to media about queer people, maybe made by someone who isn't obviously a gay man. You know what I mean? As someone who writes, as someone who wants to be a published author, as someone who is currently writing and directing a long-form series, I think to say that any identity cannot write any identity is the fastest way to shoot ourselves in the foot when it comes to representation and diverse stories in the world. Point one. Point two, I think it's really disingenuous to assume the gender and sexuality of anyone who makes specifically yaoi. In Japan, medical transition for trans people is near impossible, if not completely impossible, and gay marriage is not legal. It is not technically legal to be an out gay person living your life with your spouse. When you look at authors and mangakas who make yaoi, you have to look at the fact that most of them use pen names, typically gender-neutral pen names. They are published anonymously. They are published in secret with sometimes non-feminine names. And all that makes me think is that these people are doing what a lot of people do when they write fan fiction, when they absorb gay media, when they do any form of queer expression through media in any capacity. The people who make yaoi, I can't speak for all of them, but I'm willing to bet a large portion of them are transmasculine people or queer people who cannot express their identity in literally any other way legally in their country. And art is how they get their feelings out. Think about it. Also, I'm sorry, all the complaints about yaoi tropes and bad yaoi tropes, all pop romance genres have these identical tropes. Walk over to the heterosexual romance section of your most recent Barnes & Noble, open a book, congrats. 7 yaoi tropes. Like, all of them. Because they're just romance tropes. They're just romance tropes. I can tell you've never ever read romance media. I can tell. And as someone who loves romance media, adores romance books, movies, writing, etc., like, the yaoi tropes are just romance tropes. There's nothing there for you. You know what I mean? 4.5 out of 5. Not a full 5 yet. Unlabeled people. I think this one will be my first 5 stars. No one owes you a coming out. No one owes you a label. Labels are great. They do 2 things. They help us figure ourselves out and feel more safe in our identity because we're able to put it into words, and they can help us explain to other people our identities. This can sometimes mean conflicting labels come into play because they help best express the individualized lived experience of the person using the labels. I don't think they should have harsh definitions. I don't think they should have black and white definitions because I think each person's sexuality is such a deep, complex thing that it can never actually be described into words. We just try our best with the labels that we happen to have on hand. And unlabeled people are expressing their gender and sexuality in their own way, which does not require a label for them, and that is not a big deal. It's really not. Does it inherently make them queer? If they say it does. If they want to identify as the LGBT plus community and be unlabeled, who am I to tell them that they're not queer? If they're unlabeled and they don't identify as gay, also perfectly fine. Who am I to tell them what their own sexuality is? I'm not a conservative. I'm not going to tell you what you can and cannot say about your own junk. I think this debate's stupid. I think it's so stupid. But this conversation typically makes people sit back and have like a big brain moment about their own labels and, their own relationship with labeling. So 5 stars because I think it can be fun. It can help people. It can help people a lot. TransMeds. And by default also then True Scum and Too Cutes. I think this is cis people's greatest psyop. I'm gonna be real. Trans people, we don't have the energy to turn on each other. We don't, and it's stupid and it's useless. TransMeds are people who think trans people are only valid if they choose to medically transition. Obviously, there's some nuance in here. I've met some TransMeds who obviously make concessions for if, it's not monetarily affordable, if the person is disabled and then therefore literally cannot have surgery or inject themselves with hormones, as long as they desire to medically transition and have gender dysphoria, then they are valid. True Scum is the same thing as a TransMed. And then Too Cutes is the term used by True Scum and TransMeds to talk about trans people who don't care about passing. Typically this includes not all non-binary identities. trans people who don't adhere to the binary in presentation or otherwise, people who use alternative pronouns, that kind of thing. Or people who say that you don't have to have dysphoria to be trans, you just need to focus on the euphoria. So I am a TransMeds' worst nightmare. I am a gender fluid, transmasculine person who uses he, they pronouns, who is a professional makeup artist, and therefore I like doing my own makeup. I don't traditionally dress masculine. I have partially medically transitioned, but I cannot be on testosterone because it would literally stop my heart due to a medical condition that I am currently dealing with right now. Maybe that'll change in the future. I cross my fingers every day it'll change in the future. As of right now, it's not feasibly possible. This is what my room looks like. And I'm still a man. I'm still very much a man. So as you can see, my opinion on this will be a little bit biased because I've had a lot of TransMeds and True Scum say some really awful fucking shit about me. But I'm just gonna level with you. The reason that TransMeds and True Scum exist in the first place comes from a very specific fear of not being taken seriously by the cis community. The fact that the transgender label will be watered down by people who aren't truly trans and make us all look bad. When I see these type of trans people, I can't help but feel bad for them. I can't help but feel bad that they've fallen for cis, heteronormative, transphobic propaganda. I can't help but feel bad that they are living their lives in such a restricted way, full of such bitterness towards other people who are happy. I want them to be just as happy as I am. It breaks my heart that they're not. I think we need to show more compassion towards TransMeds and True Scum because obviously they are dealing with internalized transphobia that is so intense and deep that I can't even imagine it, and I hope that they heal. Policing other people's identities won't make you look more valid to straight cis people. You don't have to be proud to be trans. You can be stealth your whole life, but you do have to be nice to other people. You gotta. Because cis people aren't being nice to us, so we gotta be nice to each other as trans people. You know what I mean? We gotta be there supporting each other. We have to, because no one else is gonna do it. This one just makes me sad, so 1 out of 5 stars. The dual attraction model. This means splitting up your attraction towards people under romantic and sexual. So, like, for example, I guess in theory I would be a homoromantic pansexual, because I can only see myself being in a romantic long-term relationship with a man, and I'm a man, so I'd be homoromantic, but I am sexually attracted to anyone despite the gender. So I could sleep with anyone. I wouldn't necessarily marry just anyone, gender-wise. Does that make sense? This doesn't hurt anybody. I wouldn't actually describe myself as a homoromantic pansexual. I would just say I'm pan, and I am engaged to a man, you know what I mean? But I understand why this system of labels benefits other people. See my label rant before about how labels are to help describe someone's individual experience, not necessarily to box us up, but to help us feel free. 2 out of 5. This one feels so simple, yet it pops up sometimes. Fake pride flag. 5 out of 5 instantly, because I think fake pride flags are the funniest thing in the world. I love the evil trans flag. I love the rabies pride flag. I love all of these. I think they're so funny. A lot of people think that they are offensive because they make fun of actual pride flags. I disagree. If we cannot make fun of ourselves and make light of, anything, then what's the point? If we can't have a good giggle, then what's the point? I think they're hilarious. I think they're absolutely hilarious. I think it's even funnier when cis people take them seriously, because then I can point and laugh at the cis people. Respecting the pronouns of bad people. So many cis people think that just because a trans person has committed a crime, they can now openly misgender them because they deserve it. What this does is make pronouns conditional. If you are a good person, I will respect your name and pronouns. If you are a bad person, you get your basic human respect stripped away from you. We don't forcibly call criminals by their maiden names. Pronouns and names are basic human respect. It goes beyond the morality of the person you're talking to. It's just fucking decency. It's just the bare minimum respect you can show to another human being. I don't care what kind of crime that person committed. I don't care how awful of a person they are. I'm gonna call them by their name when I tell them they're a piece of shit. I'm gonna use the right pronouns when I tell them that they should rot in prison. Because I'm not gonna make other trans people have their identities hinged on what other people say their morals are. You know what I mean? All this does is punish your everyday trans person. And I'm not gonna make like those 5 criminals punish an entire minority group because I'm, beyond that level of thinking. I thought we all were, but I guess not. 3 stars out of 5. Gender bending characters. if you're in fandom spaces, you know how controversial this has been for no reason. One time, at some point, probably on Twitter, someone tried to say that gender-bending characters is transphobic. And a lot of people ran with that. I disagree. That doesn't make any sense. Unless the actual art is inherently transphobic and it's like a caricature of trans women that is inherently offensive, who cares? Who cares? It's not real. It's a drawing on a screen and someone took Shaggy and made him a MILF. Who am I to stop them? It doesn't affect my identity as a trans person at all. It has nothing to do with trans people at all, actually. 4 out of 5, because I do like seeing Shaggy as a MILF. Other kin and alt genders. This is going to be a similar thing to the neo pronouns. It doesn't hurt me. What someone calls themselves doesn't hurt me. What someone calls themselves has no effect on my identity in my life. I will still go outside and live my normal life, and then I'll come back here and live my normal life, and it has nothing to do with a random person calling themselves flower gender. It really doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't hurt me in any capacity. It doesn't hurt you in any capacity. Cis people will hate us no matter what. It's not that random person's fault. This one just feels so tired. Let just people do whatever they want. Who cares? Like, if someone's genuinely not hurting someone, who cares? Oh, like a 2 out of 5. Intersex people. I am not intersex. I have no opinion on whether that individual intersex person considers themselves a part of the LGBT plus community. Do they want to include themselves in the LGBT plus community? Sure. Does that intersex person not want to include themselves? Sure. It doesn't affect me. So much of this discourse can be watered down to that I am not a fucking Republican, and so therefore I don't care what consenting adults do in their free time. I really don't. And so if someone wants to include themselves in a thing, not include themselves in a thing, call them something, not call them something, I am not a Republican. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not invasive in other people's lives like that. I don't care. Intersex people can include themselves, or they don't have to include themselves. It's whatever. It's based on their own personal, individualized experience, and who am I to tell them that they can or cannot experience something? Like 1 out of 5, because this one feels so invasive. Like, this one just feels flat out rude. This one feels like so conservative coded, because I don't care what people have going on in their junk and whether or not it makes them a part of the LGBT plus community. If they tell me they are, I believe they are, and I'm not gonna do genital inspections like some of these conservative freaks. So, the acronym. I just say LGBT plus because I feel like that covers everyone in a succinct way that is easy for me to say with my lisp. I think the acronym can expand, de-expand, whatever, for that person's personal preference. I know what you mean when you say LGBTQIA. I also know what you mean when you say LGBT. I get what you're saying. I don't care if your distinct acronym doesn't include the Q, the I, the A. I don't care. It can. That'd be cool. It also doesn't have to. As long as you're not dropping the T. I don't care what you're doing with the acronym. Get what I'm saying? I just say LGBT plus because it's shorthand that's easy for me. The end. This one's kind of boring. I'm just gonna give it a 2 out of 5. And last but certainly never least, conservative gay people. You're not gonna be saved. You're not one of the good ones. There's no such thing as one of the good ones. The only good trans person in the eyes of a transphobe is a dead one. And the only good gay person in the eyes of a homophobe is a dead one. You're not gonna be saved. You're not gonna be saved. Appealing to straight people by appealing to conservative social viewpoints is just shooting yourself in the foot. It helps no one, not even yourself. I think the conversation gets weird when they're talking about fiscally conservative gay people who are socially liberal, because I don't think that's physically possible. I literally don't think it's physically possible to be fiscally conservative but socially liberal, because that just means you hate homeless people and you really hate the working class, and that means you're not socially liberal. So I think that's a whole different conversation. But I think the concept of a socially conservative gay person is just really, really, really sad, because you're not gonna be saved. They don't want you. They don't want you. The Republicans don't want your votes. The conservative parties don't want your votes. They only want your votes to win, and then the second they win, you're gone, girl. You're gone. It's really sad to watch gay people over and over again, especially cis white gay people, fall for this conservative propaganda because they're putting their whiteness and their cisness over their queerness, it's very weird. And once someone has gone far enough down the alt-right pipeline, there is no saving them. Like, unless you are like a professional at deprogramming people out of cults, there genuinely is no saving like someone who has fallen down far enough of an alt-right pipeline. And it's really sad to see these gay people tumbling down this pipeline that leads to their own demise just because they think it'll save them for an extra year or get them left alone when the pitchforks come around the first time. I wish I could help them. I wish I could make them love themselves. I can't, and therefore it breaks my heart. If you're a conservative gay person watching this, I just want you to know that your self-loathing does not have to define you. And you can find liberation through queer community, I promise you. I promise you, you'll be so much happier. It's just so sad. Anyway, 1 out of 5, because that one's really sad. So what is the moral of this video? The moral of this video is that all this infighting is absolutely stupid. It's what they want. It's what they want. They want us to destroy each other so they don't have to put in as much work to destroy us. Do you know how much easier it would be for us to start winning stuff if we all stopped hating each other? It breaks my heart that gay people hate other gay people like this. It breaks my heart that trans people hate other trans people like this. I hope that one day there is no such thing as like an embarrassing, cringy gay. Because it's just so sad to see people sacrificing each other for nothing. No one wins. No one wins but the straight people. No one wins but the straight people. I am gonna let lesbian Snow White's wife, another person who was a victim of the hate crime mentioned at the beginning of this video, give a pretty good closing statement that I think summarizes my thoughts as well.
To the queer community, please wake up. What are we doing? Tearing each other down? Blaming people in our own community for transphobia, homophobia, for the terrible things that happen to us? Because we're the ones to blame? Trust me, straight people don't care about you. They will tolerate you, but they will never celebrate you the way we celebrate our people. Blaming and tearing down other queer people in your community will not make straight people like you, will not make them want to fight for you.
Hate is so weak in the face of true love. I think we should all just start loving each other. Things are getting scary in a lot of countries. It is still illegal to be gay with punishment of execution in a lot of countries. And the United States, which once paved the way for a lot of progressive thinking, is kind of backtracking radically. I'm not saying the US was always good, because it obviously wasn't. It was built on the backs of slaves, but it was doing better than most. It was! And now it's not doing good at all. And that's really scary. So us turning on each other is a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time and energy. It does nothing for us. To lesbian Snow White and their wife, I hope that they both feel some peace once they're able to process the events that happened to them. And I hope the internet gets its shit together and learns to be empathetic towards trans people. And I hope you all have a really good October, which is LGBT History Month. And if you've never celebrated LGBT History Month before, use this time to educate yourself and deprogram yourself of your internalized homophobia and transphobia so that you can pave the way for a more liberated world for all queer people, regardless of their tiny niche differences from you. If you disagreed with everything I said in this video, thanks for the watch time.